You have 5 Instagram pages. Holy!
Yeah, so I got one for Flyover Country, one for Vita Nova, one for Think 3D, my company, one for Hustlers Happy Hour that we put on, and then
your personal.
Yeah, there's another one.
Person.
Yep.
Dang.
And then on my Facebook, I got one for the band page. I got one for me, one for the business, one for Hustlers Happy Hour, one for Flyover Country, and then one for something else, like 12. So like,
are you
in
consistent
terms of
on them all?
oh hell no. Like my band page is like, people be mad at me. They be hot. They be like, you don't ever post anything. I was like, come check a dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, because y'all fall in love with that. But so I don't necessarily care for it per se, really. Like for me, the real thing is always where I want to be. Really, right. That's always what I want to be doing. At the same time, I'm like, I'm not a fool. I understand the value of it and the importance of it. But for me, it's always like, I think it was Jizza that said it, make it half short and twice strong. So for me, I try not to talk as much, but when I say something, I want to say something.
It's like valuable for sure. Yeah,
that's what I'm all about.
Powerful.
Absolutely. I think that I can relate to that a lot. That's what I talk about a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
because I feel like in order for me to operate my best, sometimes I need to step away and be within my space so I can create and do what I do. And then when I feel led to, when I feel like it's truth, and when
purpose.
I feel it in here, that's
right.
I love social media, so I'm on that every day.
Well, I mean, like, like I get, if it's native to you, like I understand that. Like if it's how y'all communicate and what you're doing, and I see, then it can be enjoyable for you. But I'm like, I'm that dude, and I come from a different era. You know what I mean? I come from the era where like we had to be on the corner, or you had to get kicked out of the. And I'm just talking about music and all that, getting kicked out of the mall, handing out flyers, and you had to go see people, and that was part of the process, and you just had to do that. And so for me, that's just ingrained in me. But I'm not like a get off my lawn type of older cat. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's not my energy either. It's just not my bag, and I'm not a person that's gonna have people all the way in my process. Yeah, because there's a part of my process that's intimate. You know what I mean? That I'm not interested in sharing with people.
Yeah,
that's a good analogy there.
That's good. Yeah,
I like that. Yeah. Hey guys.
Hey, this is the People Being People.
This is the People Being People podcast with Mona and Tyler and Mona. It's another Monday, and we're going to get into this episode, a really special episode today that I'm excited about myself. I actually been looking forward to having this conversation. So yeah, hope you all's week is off to a good start. Let's make it a great week. This is People Being People. Let's get to it. Self-love isn't an easy journey.
Especially when you came from a really broken place inside of you.
It's an everyday choice.
Hello,
Vaney Hariri.
Let's go.
Thank you so much
We got the man himself on the podcast today. Vaney Hariri. My bad, I cut you off.
No, I was just going to tell him thank you so much for being a part of this podcast today. We've honestly been wanting to talk to you for the longest. I think you're very knowledgeable and intelligent.
Yeah, absolutely.
I look up to you.
I look up to you too. You know what I mean? I consume your content. As we were just speaking about content, you know what I mean? And your standpoint with that. You're doing a lot of things. You have 3 different podcasts you do on top of all of that, right?
Yeah. And then the lives and the various other things that we do, the ad hoc, that we just drop whenever. But it's always a state of, trying to deliver content consistently and always trying to experiment and figure out what's 100% me. You know what I'm saying? And that just takes time. And
They take time. Let's get down to the basics. So, are you from Sioux Falls?
No, I'm from Buffalo, New York. But I've been here for... So, I'm from Buffalo, New York. I got here, I was probably 13, 14, something like that. So, I went to high school here and all that. At the time, my uncle was out here for some military stuff, and it was the number one place to live. And the environment I was in, for sure, was not.
I'm sure.
And so, anybody that's from those type of environments know that's a recruiting age, you know what I'm saying, where people come for you. And so, my moms would have thrown the dart at the map
Yeah.
You know, and just went wherever. And my uncle was like, yo, they crazy out here. They don't lock their doors. They got their purses on the front seat with the car running.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Yeah, it was like, it's wild out here.
For
You know,
real.
he was tripping, but then it was like, well, then that's the move, you know? And so, you know, we packed up the bags and kept it pushing.
That's
Yeah.
funny. That's kind of how like you were when you moved here, and I left the car on when going to get gas, and you're like, why are you leaving the car on? I'm like, I don't know. I just leave the car on.
Can't
Like,
do that. you can't do that. Even
and you used to
2
always turn it
seconds.
off, but you don't turn it off anymore.
And it's funny because, so living here, I kind of got used to, you know, leaving my car unlocked, leaving my front door open. And I moved back to Chicago for like a year and a half, and I left my door unlocked to my vehicle, and yeah, somebody went through it.
You're like, damn it.
Yeah, they got you ASAP.
God, dude.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, it's a balance between being aware of the world, and then it's a balance between being in a place of comfort, right? I appreciate people being able to, because you should be able to.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So there's a reality, and then there's what should happen.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, given the environment I come from, I err on the side of reality,
Yeah.
because people are people.
Yeah,
right?
people are people.
Yeah.
But you know, I never want to get so far into that to where I feel like, you know, again, like I feel like I'm a prisoner in my own home. Or I'm a prisoner in my own situation. I don't want to be that either. So
Yeah.
Do you go back to New York a lot?
yeah, so I go back to Buffalo regularly, and then even before, you know, I go see my uncle who lived in downstate or whatever, and that type of thing. So I try to get back, but it's like now I could be back for probably 3 days. Like I love Buffalo, I do, and my goal is to do my work here and then be able to go there and be able to influence it, because it's trying to make a resurgence as well.
Wow.
And if you follow in the news, there's a lot of pent up energy there from what has transpired over time.
Yeah.
Like they made news of, you know, the old cat that got pushed over and all that. And so yeah, I do try to get back, but you know, I'll be back for like 3 days, and I'm ready to come back, and that's how I know like it's a different situation.
That's so crazy.
That's how I
That's
am when
how
I go
he
back to
is.
Chicago. When I get back, I don't know.
Shit.
Maybe it's like past traumas and like, you know, feeling some of that old energy when being back
All
in the
that.
city.
That's
It's all
different.
that. It's so much more you got to activate.
Oh,
Yeah, that's true.
That's so true.
Shit, I love it. I'm like, yeah, Chicago.
Right, because
I didn't mean to scream. Sorry.
because you going to be on Madison.
Yeah.
You gonna go see the Bean. You gonna do the, you know, you gonna do the fun stuff.
The tourist stuff.
You
Yeah.
gonna do all of that.
Yeah.
But like the reality of like when it
The
why
hood.
you touching my titties?
Yeah.
Clack, 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 clack. You know? And then it's one of them things where it's like, yo, I just want to go to the store real quick.
Right.
And you got to be on point, and you see, and most importantly, like when I see my people, when I'm out and I see my people, and I got to have a different energy. You know what I'm saying? I don't care for that no more.
Yeah.
You know, where I gotta be like what you want.
Maneuver
You
differently
know?
and shit. Yeah.
And you know, those are, you know, and it's funny because as we having these conversations about what's going on in the world right now, people think about privilege. They don't understand how much of a privilege it is to not have to manage all of that, where you could just go to the store.
And
Right.
just
Absolutely.
peacefully
Yeah.
and not have to worry.
Absolutely. And
Turn your back and look around.
Yeah, and I think another piece that is missing is people really don't understand why it's set up that way.
Yeah.
You know, why it's set up, why it's got to that point. Like, what happened to cause, you know, our communities to get to this point? It didn't just happen overnight.
For sure.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
stuff that
that's-
led up to that.
That's
And,
true.
Yeah, like I can most definitely relate to you when it comes to that. You know what I mean? I think you like hit the nail on the head, just having to activate like a lot of stuff in my mind to be able to manage and to be able to maneuver, you know, and being in the city. And it's funny how we transitioned into this conversation, because I actually wanted to talk to you a lot about, you know, those things today, you know, and kind of like examine your mind and see, you know, your thoughts on, you know, when it comes to the Black community, as, you know, what's going on today in the world. I feel like it's opening up a lot of tough conversations that people have avoided. I know for myself, there's been conversations that I've had within the past week or a couple of weeks that I avoided. But I feel like it needs to happen, It's tough, it's uncomfortable, but it has to happen.
For sure.
But yeah, like I most definitely want to talk about that stuff today. But first and foremost, like you are a leader in the community. You do a lot of things here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And first and foremost, I want to talk about Think 3D Solutions, your company. So explain to us a little bit about what Think 3D Solutions is.
Yeah, so we launched in 2016. My business partner and I. So we specialize in leadership development, training, and organizational culture consulting. And so my partner and I, we both were in finance and at a particular company or whatever. And he used to run a collections department at one bank. I was at another one, and then eventually we were at the same one. And we had been friends for 15 years or something like that at that time. And, we were talking about our teams and frustrations that we had and the stuff we felt like our leaders weren't doing and whatever. It just so happened that both of us have the personality of doing something. Like neither one of us really like just complaining, you know what I'm saying? So we were talking about different things that we could be doing. And as we were in our environments, we just saw the trends of what was transpiring. We saw so much of it was based on the human capital, the people, whereas most leaders are thinking about productivity, production, profit, blah, 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 metrics, this, that, and the third. And we saw people who just weren't effective leaders, man. They just didn't know how to talk to people. They didn't know how to engage people. And for me, a lot of it is natural and a lot of it is ability.
That's one of the biggest questions I was going to ask you, because I noticed that about you is like you're very articulate when it comes to how you speak and how you present yourself to people. And I'm just like, I have troubles with that. And so like I was going to ask you, like, does that come naturally, or did you have to learn, or did you have to learn that? Like,
it's both. This is how I communicate it, right? It's like in basketball, right? You could teach someone to shoot, you could teach someone to dribble, you could teach someone to pass. You can't teach them to be 7 feet tall.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So a lot of it is skill. Some of it I came with. You know what I mean? And so you got to work with whatever you got to. Whatever you. I need
to get better at that.
Oh, don't worry, we got stuff for that. So we're gonna see you on that piece.
Really? No, because honestly, like when it comes to me, like, I have what I want to say. It's all in my head. But then when I put it out into words, like I get too excited, and sometimes it's nervousness, and I'm like, and I just spiral and get crazy. And I'm like, I don't know. It just sucks. So
well, for me, like I had to make subtle changes in my energy, and I'll come back to this, but I had to make subtle changes in my energy because for me, I'm a passionate person, and that comes through. But there was a point in time where it came through as aggression. And that was and that little change is the difference between you being super effective and not effective at all, or effective in the wrong way. So we'll touch on that. But but in terms of how we got rolling, so we came together and we were seeing this in we were seeing what was happening. And for me, like, people would always come around my desk when they knew I would say what needed to be said. So if we came out of a meeting or whatever, people would come to my desk. They'd be like, "Yo, V, this is happening. I don't like this." Da da da. I'm like, "Y'all, let me go talk to them." You know what I'm saying? I do that whole thing. And then eventually, what was happening is on a lot of situations that I was in, I had as much influence as whoever, and that goes back to school, where like, if I don't feel like learning, ain't nobody learning in here, because I'm gonna have the room.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I'm a whole court. I was always that person, and I didn't always know how to aim it.
Were you a class clown at all?
Yeah, for sure.
I just had to ask that.
No, for sure. I need all the energy. But this is the thing though. I had some teachers that were smart enough to use my ability to be able to say, look, aim this. It's not a problem. Everybody made me feel like I was just a distraction and just a problem. And I had some really special teachers in my life that let me know that it was a gift, that I was just using it in an effective way. And then that's when I started to embrace how to use it. And they would use me. They would start off a conversation. They'd be like, "Vaney, what you think about this?" And I'll bust something. And people would be like, "Oh, well," because they knew that the way I said things landed with people different. And so that got more people in the conversation. And that was great leadership. And that's part of what I learned, is that how to use somebody's abilities instead of making making them feel like they're a problem. You know, you want people to feel like they're a possibility, right? This is what could happen if you chose to do this versus you being problematic. And that was one of the biggest things, right? We had leaders that got their positions because they were either the best at doing whatever the thing was, or they were just the ones that were most moldable or, you know, malleable, right? And so I would go to a lot of them, and a lot of them felt ill-equipped. And I would help them, and I'd be like, look, let me talk to the team. I'll get this situated. You know what I mean? And I controlled the energy. Yeah. And so we knew that there was specific things that we could do to bring that out of people, to put that in people. And then I coached a lot of people. So if somebody came to the team, like they'd sit with me, and I had a way of helping that person build their confidence. And I realized that once a person got that was most of it.
Yeah. Confidence is key.
That's it.
It really opens up. I'm learning that every day.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm the most confident I've ever been.
That's good.
And it feels good. It feels so good.
It's because that's how you supposed. That's how you. That is how you are supposed to be in this world.
Absolutely.
That's the only. You're a miracle.
Yeah.
You know, you a miracle.
You say that,
Absolutely. I agree 100% because like we all have so much potentials and gifts within inside of us, but if we don't have the confidence, you know, how can we use them properly? You know, how can we appreciate them properly? So I feel like, you know, confidence, gratitude, things like that, you know, brings out who you really are.
Absolutely.
And you're able to be like who you are, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And not try to,
And
you know,
people do often what they do well, right? And so if a person feels that they do something well, they want to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so anytime you're in a work environment in particular, when somebody is not doing something you want them to do, is usually because they don't feel confident in it. Like if a person feels good about it, they're going to do it. The people who was good at writing want to write. People that was good at talking want to talk. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
And so locking that in. So anyway, we came together and we said, look we got to do something. So we wrote a book in the end of 2015, and then we were going to wait like 5 years to launch the business, but then millennials happened.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? and it just changed the whole game. And then people was like, we don't know what to do. We don't and so that's when we launched early.
So in 2015, you launched your business.
Yeah, so 2016 technically is when we incorporated, but we wrote the book in 2015. We had it all situated. Okay. And then we fully went 2016.
Wow. Yeah. So you guys pretty much, so the book, is that book available for people to purchase, or is it a book in terms of like the curriculum?
No. They can get that on Amazon.
Okay.
Self-titled, Think 3D.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Think 3D.
Think 3D.
Tongue twister.
Amazon.
Drink 3D.
I almost got a little
Think
tongue
3D.
twister
I
too.
do it all the time too. Think 3D. Yeah.
When it comes to, because I know you have a leadership program.
Yes.
So are you consistently doing that? Is that what your company is like based around? Is this program or?
No, that's it. Actually, we do that for the community. We get it funded through grants and things of that nature.
That's
So
dope.
leadership is part of what we teach. So when we go in and we teach people about culture, is the strategy and how to develop an intentional culture based on the 3 dimensions of personal, professional, and potential.
Okay, I was going to ask that.
You know what I'm saying?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Personal, professional, and potential. So there's really three dimensions that we see, right? Of how you create a quality person. Normally people think about it 2-dimensionally, which is potential and professional, right? So professional being the stuff that you need to do your job, equipment, basic training, all that other type of stuff. Most people do that. Potential, how you develop talent, how you place talent, all that other type of stuff. There's usually a version of that. The 3rd dimension, being personal, is the part that people usually don't do, which is why they think of people as just robots or whatever. They only think about them 2-dimensionally as inanimate objects, right? And so when you think about this, like this glass, for instance, you know this glass is 3-dimensional, not because of the glass, but because of everything around the glass. Absent that, you wouldn't be able to tell. Yeah. And so when you think about a human being, you need to think about them 3-dimensionally, which means if you're not thinking about everything around them, their health, their mental health, their family, all of that type of stuff, you're not seeing them 3-dimensionally. You're not really considering that person's experience. And so that's why we talk about those 3 dimensions. And the personal is where we try to get people locked in and how you deal with the human, you know.
Can I join this, please?
All right, that is, like I said,
we can talk about that after.
Nah, because
or we can talk about it now.
Because that's a key to it. Because we said when we started the business that we wanted our philanthropic efforts to run alongside it. We wasn't going to wait until we got to a certain level and then try to come back. We said, nah, we got to do this the whole way. And so the leadership development program we do for the community, our goal is to create the leadership Leaders of Tomorrow Academy for the city, which we're working on right now, trying to get that big bag, so that way we could bring that to the whole community.
Awesome.
And we want to make sure that we especially focus on shelter populations, transient populations, those transitioning from incarceration, youth, veterans, all that type of thing. People who are the most vulnerable, giving them leadership skills, because that's how you truly free a person.
Yes.
Don't just teach them to fish. We're going to give you the pole and the bait and get you ready to go out and do what it is that you got to do, and then you live your life. Yeah. But the reason why that's so important, and the reason why we love folks like you, which is why I'm here and why we want folks like you in the program, is because if there's any knowledge, anything that I can bestow upon you, that I could give you, that's going to allow you to navigate this world better and be successful faster, because that's what it is about. Because you define success for yourself, but it's about sooner rather than later. It don't mean you get to skip steps. It just means you get there sooner rather than later, and that's all you could really ask for from somebody. But that's what I want for people, because if I can give you that access, we can change the dynamics of this world in a way that they've never seen before. And especially for people of color, the disconnect has always been, there's always been people who have achieved. There have always been people who have overcome, but it's never been on scale. We've never been able to share that knowledge at such a level that enough of us could scale up at a certain period in time that we could change the power dynamic. And that's one of the things that we are passionate about doing.
Wow. All I have to say is just wow. I was just listening the whole time like, holy.
Yeah, we're going with all that.
Yes, wow.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I feel like that is so important. Like education, we need leaders, you know what I mean? It's a lot of youth out here these days, like just speaking a little bit about our audience, you know, it is our peers, you know, ages 16 to, I say, early 30s. And a lot of us do need leaders, you know what I mean? Even speaking for myself, like being in the position I'm in my life, I have to play that role. And sometimes, you know, I need someone to go to.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I mean? I think Scooter Braun, Justin Bieber's old manager, explained that perfect. You know, he was the person that was strong all the time, leading all the time, so no one really knew when he needed, you know, help. And so I think no matter what, we all need outlets and opportunities where we can go, you know, and you know, sit down and talk with someone like Vaney, or, you know, join his classes and his courses and get the right stuff that we need, you know, for us. I feel like that's really important. And, you know, speaking of the education system, I grew up in Chicago public schools. That's where I got my education. And I feel like there was a lot of missing links, you know, not just with Black history, but, you know, other things I had to go on about and seek for myself. And I feel like the dynamic of our education system here in America, you know, is lacking a lot. And what's happening right now in the world is opening up these conversations. I think it's just a lot of people are unaware. You know what I mean? A lot of people really don't know. A lot of people don't know real history. You know, as I mentioned earlier, why things are the way that they are, why these communities are the way that they are. They just really don't know. So I've been, you know, of course, refreshing some of my history so I can have these tough conversations, because after high school, when I graduated in 2011, that's where I started, like, reading books, you know, reading about my history, reading about entrepreneurship, you know, watching documentaries, all sort of stuff. And, you know, I've just been diving back into that recently, and it's been opening up my mind to, like, a lot of the things that we're lacking here in the education system. And I've been watching some of your podcasts and some of your content, and you know, a lot of the topics and the stuff you touch on is, like, you know, vital. I feel like we need to talk about those things. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why we do it. So, America is very good at this. Well, all humans are good at this. But particularly, like, the education system is an example of what happens when you build something to last better than you build it to work. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, it was meant to last, which means it's hard to change, it's hard to undo, but we didn't put as much effort in it working, right? We wanted it to produce a particular thing, not being able to see far enough that we would change what thing we wanted it to do. So we wanted to produce workers that could do simple tasks, you know, where you were just an employee, you had simple functions. But now things are more dynamic, where people need to be more creative. They need problem-solving skills, all of those other type of things. It wasn't built to do that.
And I honestly think what they should add in school too is like mental health classes
Absolutely.
and like stuff like that, like on yourself, mental health, spiritual. I honestly think spiritual and freaking manifesting and stuff. Do you believe in that?
For sure. But listen, alchemy, the whole nine.
Yeah.
But listen to what you just said though.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. Add. So this is what we're talking about. This is why we want to do the whole academy. And so initially to start out as supplementary to education, but in reality, education in its traditional sense to be supplementary to what we're talking about, because the reality of it is we ask people to be in school for these 16 years and then go operate in a world that operates nothing like that. And so the only thing that is consistent is that you go to some place you don't want to go. You do something you don't want to do with people you don't necessarily want to do it with for longer than you really want to be there. That's really what it's teaching you, how to work, right?
Yeah.
Outside of that, it generally doesn't give you a ton. The thing that is the real education, the thing that is, because if we go to any employers, right, their problem is not necessarily the technical abilities. Their problem is the human element. And so when a person doesn't have mental health or a line, when that person doesn't have confidence, when that person
When
doesn't
they don't
have
like what they're doing,
problem solving skills, when they're not entrepreneurial or whatever, that is ultimately what creates the problems in the workspace. You could teach anybody anything if they are open to learn. So what we should be teaching kids is how to learn.
And learning is cool. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, you good. You
I'm
good.
getting excited.
I mean, it's a conversation. People being people, right? You know what I'm saying? But what we're getting to is, if I teach you how to learn and if I teach you how to teach, you can work with life no matter what it throw at you. We teach people what they should learn, what we think that they should learn. Well, that stales. It expires. We don't know what the future is going to hold. I don't know what jobs people are going to have in 10 years. 20 years ago, they wasn't thinking about autonomous vehicles.
There's going to be robots in 10 years.
Exactly.
Right.
But if you know how to learn, if you know how to be good at getting good, right? If you know how to teach, if you know how to educate other people, what can't you do? What era can you not be successful in?
You can do anything and everything you put your
Right.
mind to. It's just you have to be open to learning. And I think I'm finally in a phase where I'm open to learn.
That's good.
And realizing that learning is cool. It's okay.
Yes.
And
It's a gift. It's beautiful.
yes.
Absolutely.
It's love.
Because I used to, no, I just want to go party. I just want to go drink, and
Yeah.
I'm finally like, no,
Yeah.
I want to learn. I want to educate myself. I want to be knowledgeable so I can teach people, because we are trying to teach people. And if we don't know shit, we're going to be talking out of our ass, and that's not cool.
Yeah, our business reflects who we are. Like, if we're not right with us, how can we sow into the world self-love and self-awareness? So we got to get right with us.
But that's why y'all gonna win, though. You know, because you want to learn. Like, just understanding that you're gonna win. That's just the bottom line, because that is the fruits of it. That's how you get to it. That's just because, and number one, with humans, if you talk about relationship, if you want a real relationship with people, name a person that you love that didn't teach you anything.
I know. I'm not going to say, but
you know what I'm saying?
in my head,
it popped up in my head right away.
You know what I mean? Like, and when you get in a situation where the transfer of knowledge, that gift, both the giving and the receiving, is the relationship, right? Because for someone who has endured the pain, right? The person who has endured the pain or the struggle or whatever they had to go through, to give it to you so you can circumvent it. I want you to avoid this. I want you to not have to engage with this. Here's this gift so you don't have to find it for yourself. The receiving piece of it is somebody taking that knowledge, acknowledging that person's journey, acknowledging what that person went through, and validating it by wanting the knowledge that they spent so much time and energy and effort in acquiring. And that's why we say the student that doesn't honor his teacher has not learned a thing. Because when you have learned something, you want to honor that gift, and that transfer of knowledge is how we connect generations. It's how we create relationships from old to young. And so that is what we all have to be in, is a thing of teaching and learning.
And learning, and teaching knowledge, and heck yeah.
I agree. And you mentioned something really vital there, like, you know, just how like the ideology behind America and how it started and like how our economic system started. You know, it was all about industrializing and building workers, and we left out that piece of like, hey, you know, where's the emotional piece of it? Like where is this person's abilities and where is this person's abilities and where do they see themselves in life?
We in the Midwest, bro. People wasn't having kids because they wanted kids.
Yeah.
They was having kids to work.
Dang.
They was having kids for the farm.
Yep. Duh.
Listen, you 5, 10, 20, and at that time, 100 miles from whoever else. There was no employees.
Yeah, it was just to work on the farm.
People were having kids to work on the farm.
Just like my mom said with my grandpa, he stopped school at 8th grade so he can work on the farm.
Yeah, that's what you did. That's why you were, whatever. You just needed enough to do that. So like, the idea of employment, the idea of needing workforce has driven a lot of what happens in this country.
Yeah, and it's so like, you know, I feel like, you know, we're taking baby steps, and we need to, and there's still a lot of changes that needs to be made. But, you know, even the old idea, like the American dream was, you know, get married, start a family, live happily ever after, that sort of stuff, you know, work your job. But a lot of the things you're mentioning here today, it sounds like emotional based, like really getting to the core of who that person is. And I feel like, you know, we have a lot of growing to do in that area. You know what I mean? Here
are you saying us as humans? Okay.
Us as
I thought you were
humans.
like pointing at us. Well, I have a lot of growing
and
to
we
do.
always have always have
Yeah.
growing to do in that area. I feel like everyone, you know, has growing to do in that area, but, you know, us as a whole, you know, as a community of people, as a country, you know, we have a lot of growing to do in that.
A lot
we
of
left
growing.
that part out.
I have a question that popped up in my head before I forget.
Shoot it.
Where do you want your company to go? Like in 5 years from now, like, are you just wanting it for the community of Sioux Falls, or are you trying to go globally? Like what, like.
No, it'll be global.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
And, you know, because, and not for business sake, but because we want to have people to have access.
Yeah, you just want to give knowledge.
That's
and
what it is.
help people out. And so that's what fulfills you in life.
Right. Actually, you know, I don't care about money to almost a detrimental degree. You know what I mean? Like, you know, obviously I like things and I want to go do whatever and all that type of stuff, but money don't move me. It just doesn't. And now I have to be thoughtful about my wife. I have to be thoughtful about my business partner. I have to be thoughtful about how we position ourselves and make maneuvers. So I gotta go get the bag. Right. And you know, we have a system. I work within it. I don't resent commerce to that degree, but money is never why I do a thing.
No.
Right.
It might be one of the things I get from it, but it's never why. Now, some people make the mistake of thinking that because I don't care about money, I don't care about currency. Because I care about currency. It's just not all, you know. Not
I think
all
it's
money
just
is
because
currency.
you know it's gonna come. Like,
For sure.
you think, you know it's gonna come. So why worry and stress about it?
And it's gonna come the right way.
It's a process. It's a marathon.
Come the right way. Absolutely.
The right way.
The right way.
The right way. But speaking, so I know you have this company. You said earlier that you have a band.
Yeah. Be the number one in a nice tempo.
Yeah.
Are you
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, because I just found out about this, so I kind of want to know.
Yeah.
Because you are a music artist as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
I've been doing that for a long time. So, late 90s is when I stopped popping. So I probably got 6 albums, something like that.
Really?
And then so now, it's a more mature version of what it is that I'm doing. So I had a full band, 8-piece band. Guitar, sax, bass, drum, percussion, female vocal, keys, sax. Yeah,
you do everything.
For real.
A little bit.
So is music is it like your passion, your hobby, or?
Music was one of the first loves. You know, that was the thing, and which is why I'm still doing it. You know, 20 some odd years later, but. It's what I realized is that the music industry wasn't what I wanted. Music was always what I wanted, but you know, so I used to run for bands. So when they came to town, and mostly rock bands, and which was even better because you know when they would come to town, I'd get them whatever they needed or take them wherever, you know, all that type of stuff. And that was good for me because a lot of the bands wasn't really in my genre, so I didn't know the lead singer from the guitar tech, you know.
Yeah.
And which was good for me because I wasn't
Right.
I wasn't tripping off of them.
Yeah, you were like, oh my God.
Yeah. Out there
I didn't care.
fanboying,
So I
right.
sit over there in the car. But because of that, they all swarm me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
My general energy and the fact that I wasn't, you know, and
You
they
were
just
fan,
love, right.
What is it called?
Fanboying.
Yeah. They just love being around somebody that didn't want something from them. And so they would all hang out. So like, for instance, like, you know, Chevelle was here. We hang out with them someplace they liked, or Modest Mouse. A couple of them like going to Walmart and hanging. Papa Roach, like he like flying little things with his son. Shine Down, they wanted to go to the golf course.
Really?
Disturbed wanted to go to the gym, and we would go and take him wherever. And this cat, Mike Ness, super cool dude. He's a SoCal legend, in the punk rock, you know, SoCal punk rock scene. Was in a band called Social Distortion. He like going antiquing. So I would roll around with these cats and do this type of thing, and all they would do is kick game, and they were more interested in me, but they would kick game. And they would all warn me about the business. You know, they would tell me about the business side of it. And then we would produce hip hop shows. You know what I mean? So like I remember one time we was picking up David Banner from Sioux City or something like that, and we rolling back, and he's on the phone with his lawyer. He having this conversation, and he going through his lawyer, and they talking about different numbers and everything. And my mind is melting because I'm like, I'm getting the real not
deal.
what I think. What happened? I'm getting the real cut, and so then he started breaking it down for me, and you just realize, you know, these type of industries sometimes are the greatest collection of lies, thieves, and snakes.
Yeah, snakes.
And there's a certain way you got to move to navigate that. It's similar to like when you go back to the crib. Not that I'm using that, you know, to represent the people, but it's the circumstance, it's the environment. And so when you're in that environment, it changes the way you got to maneuver, whether you want it to or not, or else you're just going to be fooled. And so for me, it was like it wasn't a pursuit that I necessarily wanted. That said, though, that reality prepared me for this reality. Part of the reason why I'm effective doing what I'm doing in my business, part of the reason why I'm effective at doing what I do in leadership is because I know how to rock a mic, I know how to move a crowd, I know how to work a stage. And so
I will say, like, when I saw you spoke at the protest, like, you are so powerful, just like the way you speak, I'm just
and you
brought
always
tears
have,
to my eyes for real. Like,
thank you.
Yeah,
and every
you're very
time I
powerful.
get around you, you always have something to say that's uplifting, that builds. You know what I mean? And I definitely see that connection between music and you know the way that you speak and
rap in particular.
Have you
Because
performed?
I can say a lot in 30 seconds.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Have you performed, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What's the name of your band again? I'm sorry, man.
No, it's fine.
Be the Noble One in the Knights Temple. So I was originally in a group called the Noblemen. Then I was in the group, then with Young Nobles. Then I had an entertainment company, Flame On Entertainment. And then I kind of morphed into the Be the Noble One in the Knights Temple.
Cool, that's awesome. So, kind of rearing away from this, you just dropped. So is it merch that you just dropped? What is
Nah, so Flyover Country, that's the apparel. We're starting off compact, but basically this is part of the various things that I do. A lot of the things that I do all feed into each other. If there's anything I'm really good at, is connectivity. It's making things flow, because it's about movements. Because you know what I want to do in terms of changing things socially means you got to change things socially, right? You got to change the things that touch people, and that's music, right? That's leadership, engagement, education. That's apparel, what they wear, how they feel about that. We also have Hustlers Happy Hour, which is kind of our social function where we bring people together for like mixers and that type of thing.
Really?
So
That's
how we
dope.
affect people socially, right? So if you put all the things together, you see how it comes together to affect how you affect a human, period. But Flyover Country was based off of the premise, when I'm moving around and doing whatever, like I live here because I want to, you know, and I want to represent or whatever, but like I'm not gonna wear a pheasant and like I'm over the silhouette of the state when I'm moving. So when I'm in Atlanta or New York or I'm moving, I'm gonna wear something with flavor or whatever, but represents where I'm at. And so the idea of Flyover Country is taking
fly over country,
right? Because that's how people refer to the Midwest in a lot of cases, because you just fly over it. There's no point in stopping.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah, and so that was meant to be a knock, but we turned that on his head. We're like, fly over, knock yourself. I don't care. You know, like, because I got a line in one of my rhymes. It's like, and They call us flyover country because they ain't from the fabric, because they can't see we living good with like half the traffic. And that's my thing, where it's like I live as good as anybody, better than most people I know in most places.
Yeah.
And I don't have the traffic, I don't have the crime, I don't have the drama, I don't have whatever. Like, it's hard for me to feel like I'm losing.
Yeah.
And when I go to see my friends, like whatever dope thing is in their city, I go there as much as they go there, because they don't go there unless I'm there, because they don't want to deal with the traffic and the nonsense and the parking and whatever. So they normally don't engage with that stuff either.
Yeah.
So when I go see my friend in Minneapolis, that restaurant we always go to, he go when I go.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, I'm not missing nothing.
Yeah.
I go see it like you go see it. I go do whatever. I move around like whatever. And so it's taking that energy back, and for us to develop in the swag. And for me, part of what I want to do is raise the self-esteem of our community.
Yep.
Part of the reason why people hating on your shit is because they don't feel confident in what they doing. And so what we want to do is raise that confidence and that self-esteem in what people are doing individually, which allows them to leave me alone or support what I'm doing.
Leave me alone or support what I'm doing.
Exactly, because like no one can take anything from you. You know what I mean? I say this a lot. A lot of people like to think in terms of like competition and have a competitive mindset, but there's only one you. You know what I mean? There's nothing new under the sun. Nobody can take
that's just gonna make you
anything from
stagnant,
you. It's enough out here for everybody. That's how I feel.
Right.
You know?
Of course, there's more than enough out here for everybody. Because again, when you look at any one person, like, no one has the game locked, and even that perception of the idea of having your game locked is just foolish. You know what I mean? Because in order for you to have the game locked, you would have to have all there is, all there can be, all there will be. Yeah. And that's just ridiculous. You know?
You're always learning, always learning. So with this apparel, is it just like, so it's actually going to be like an apparel? Because I'm still trying to like grasp like what it like.
So right now,
I know the meaning of it.
Yeah.
But
so right now, what you have is you have the shirts and hoodies at this point.
Okay.
Next wave would be tanks, bottoms, shorts, and joggers.
Dope.
Then it'll expand into
so streetwear.
Yeah,
streetwear.
Okay.
Right.
Nice.
So then it'll expand into that piece of it, and then we'll let it go where it wants it to go, because at the end it's one of several adventures that I'm in, and honestly like really I build businesses to give them away. Really, like the hope is really to get to it, because at the end of the day I know there's a certain point where I'm not going to want to actively engage in these things, and should they be worthy of passing on, I want to pass them on to people who could do that. And really, that's one of the kind of the hopes that we have with Leaders of Tomorrow, is eventually, because really the goal of Leaders of Tomorrow is that we teach the people, and then some will come back as adjuncts to teach themselves. And so what happens is it becomes perpetual. So we can step away and it runs under its own power. And that's the thing about real creation, is that people, like real creators, don't create for the creator, right? They create for that thing to exist. They create because that thing needs to be in the world. That's why they make it. You know what I mean?
You
it's
say
not.
That all the time.
Yeah, it's not to exalt me.
He always says that, like when he
Great
creates.
minds.
He's always like.
Yeah, once I give it away, it's not mine anymore.
Right. You know? And so for me, I'm not trying to whatever. And so I want everything to be in a position where it can shift and somebody could do whatever with it, because I'm not always going to be engaged in it, because I'm always going to go do whatever it is I feel like doing at that particular time.
Absolutely.
Exactly. This is good.
Something that really moved me. So listening to your interview on Kello Land, what show was that you did on Kello Land?
I did a lot of Kello joints.
Okay. I really
the recent one.
I did a lot. It was probably the.
It was talking about the one
I shared on,
probably.
One I shared on my page when it was talking about privileges.
Yeah, that one was probably the Kello Living.
Okay.
I was trying to watch it, but I couldn't find it, so I don't know anything about it. So I'm sorry if I'm going to be
the link was broke,
here.
but it came back.
I'm going to watch it because he was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like,
because that you explained privilege is perfect, and like the way that it should be explained, because a lot of people are misinformed, when it comes to privileges and opening up tough conversations, and what we deal with. And personally, like, okay, I know you grew up in Buffalo, New York, moved here when you were 13. Have you ever had any experience with police brutality or profiling or anything like that?
Well, in Buffalo, that was the thing. You know what I'm saying? We had, if you had an interaction with police and you didn't get smacked up. That was noteworthy.
Yeah.
Here, not as much,
Mm-hmm.
in by any stretch, but I had incidents, again, where people are stopping you and they engaging you in a certain way disrespectfully for no reason, not communicating what the reason is, and that type of thing.
Yeah.
In terms of like being physically assailed, that's or anything like that. That part is not the case, but you know what it is.
Yeah.
Just the frivolous stuff, changing the reason why they stopped you.
Mm-hmm.
Having you out, just to run, you for warrants.
Yeah.
Stalling you out, so they can get the canine there.
Yeah.
All that type of stuff.
Could you explain to me a little bit more of how you like look at privilege and stuff? Because I didn't get to hear it. I want to know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, just a little. You don't have to go.
No. A lot of times when people think about privilege, they think about privilege in terms of, number one, you having something special or somebody taking something away from you, right? Where they're not acknowledging the work, effort, or energy that you haven't, that you put in terms of what you do. But that's not necessarily what privilege is. When we talk about privilege, there's a couple elements of thinking about it, and I'll try not to go too deep into it. Well, part of it is just the things that you don't have to consider. It's not even a matter of necessarily what you get. It's a matter of what you don't have to consider. We touched on it earlier when you go back to the shower, whatever, not having to consider how you walk to the store, what you wear, having clothes not being in your, certain colors not being able to be in your wardrobe, right? That's a privilege not to have to manage that. And when we ask people to think about their privilege, it's more about thinking about the gratitude of the situation, right? And being and having gratitude and thinking about what it is that you have that you value that you may not have noticed, and understanding that other people may not have that. For example, as a man, I have male privilege. I've never felt fear for my life or my safety when I walk into a parking garage at night.
Yeah, no, I know that. Honestly, like when I'm by myself at night, I'm always like, I call you. I'm like, I'm scared because I don't know. Like,
correct. I don't have to manage that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And so because I don't have to manage that, I get to manage something else. Right? There's so many people out there right now that are one thought away from being successful. That are one thought away from being happy, that are one thought away from being able to save their marriage. And so when I have to use that thought, when I have to spend that thought on whether or not I'm safe in the elevator, whether or not I'm going to get shot for this broken taillight, whether or not I'm a the absence of, in many cases, is the privilege. It's not like somebody came to your house, when you was young in a white van, dudes in white suits popped out and heard, I heard there was a white baby. Here's your white bag with a white prize full of money, and here's your white diploma, and then you had your life set up. Nah, it's not that you were gifted anything. It's that is the absence of obstacle. It's the absence of those things. And the way that people fight it is through gratitude. And so when I appreciate the fact that I can walk in the parking ramp safely, when I have gratitude for that, I want it for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I want it for you?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Why wouldn't I want you to be able to walk into the parking ramp and feel good? That seems crazy. And so that gets us from the point where I feel like you're diminishing my experience by saying, because you a man, you had da-da-da-da-da. That makes people feel like you're diminishing their experience.
Yeah.
But for me, it's not even about that. It's about having appreciation for the fact that I have something that you may not have. And so
that's a good way that you put it, because wow.
Yeah.
And that's how we need to see it, because a lot of times we try to point fingers with it, but I feel like it's a lot more than that. And if we really get to like the core of what it really is and what it really means, then we can have the right conversations.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Honestly, like this whole like protesting and stuff really opened my eyes, because previously I had kind of like, I don't see color, like I see everyone the same, and this really opened my eyes. We've had deep conversations like, wow, no, there actually is a difference, and you need to open your eyes, and you need to see, and you need to learn history, and you need to be knowledgeable, and like you said, just show appreciation. Like
we I feel like at the micro of it, like I love every human, But what makes us beautiful and what makes us human is that we are all different.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we need to acknowledge that. Like, you know, we can't just ignore it to try to seem woke and hipster-like and all loving. Like, we're all different. And we need to embrace and accept that, because when we embrace it and when we accept it, you know, we can love the person how they need to be loved. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the challenging part about it. And I was just posting about this the other day. It's like, you know, so when people say, you know, they're colorblind, it's like saying that, you know, I don't see your color, as if you did, you would have issue with it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you can't see my color and not be racist.
Right.
So it's like, I just ignore it so that way it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Right. And the other piece of it is, if you can't see the person's race, it's harder to see the racism. If you don't see my color, it's harder for you to see that somebody's treating me differently because of it.
Yeah.
I don't see color. So then how would you see that this person is doing this to me because of my color? You know what I mean?
Yeah, my eyes have opened a lot. Trust me. Like, no, because one day we're gonna have biracial kids. And
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay,
and another thing, one last thing I want to touch on about, you know, this topic is, I feel like people don't understand what systematic oppression means. It's like, I feel like they just think it's maybe just judgment or judging someone for the way they look, but it's a lot more than that. You know, it's laws set in place, it's policy, it's a lot of underlining things and a lot of stuff that has led up to that, you know what I mean?
For sure.
And I'd love to hear your perspective on that too, because I feel like you always make like really good points and a lot of
for people to understand.
Put in their
head.
I really wanted to get your, like, in the midst of everything that's happening right now, I really wanted to get your perspective on that, and, you know, like the root of systematic oppression and what that really means.
So I would explain it like this. For everybody that's listening or watching, I want you to think about if you were starting your own business, if you were starting your ideal business, ice cream shop, car shop, whatever it is. Think about your ideal business. Everything the way you want it is designed exactly how you would have it. Everything, chairs, tables, windows, all of that other type of stuff. And then I want you to think about your opening day. It's about to go down. You open your doors for the first time, and that first customer walks in. Right? Think about it for a second. What does that customer look like? Probably a lot like you. Because that's what you're going to make the business for. Like, if you're an NBA player, you probably going to have taller tables, taller chairs, because you normally, you know, you want to make sense for your NBA friends. Now, you're probably not thinking about that person in a wheelchair. So when this country was designed, we were still not considered people. We were 3/5 of man. And so we were not in its design. We were not in its intention. So if it worked for us, it would be an accident, because they didn't do it on purpose. You see what I'm saying? In fact, much of it was intentional to work against us. And even when you end slavery, you still write things in like the 13th Amendment to still allow black people of color to be property of the state if they committed a crime, thus creating an industry of positioning people as criminals so that they could remain your property. That was done strategically, limiting people's education. Even then, people knew education was power, so it was limited strategically. Think about this. Most people need the National Guard to get their kids to go to school. We needed the National Guard to get our kids admitted to school. And so now when you're talking about those type of things, let's talk policing, for instance. We know that the police come from slave catching, right? That's where it originated. And so we know for a fact that it was initiated with racist intent. It was meant to focus on people of color. And so now once you start to create data that is focused on policing, that is focused on people of color, what is that data going to reveal? The data is going to reveal that when you focus on people of color commit crime, as all people do, but you're only looking at them. Fast forward to today, now you have somebody that might have a meth lab in a trunk driving around in a white neighborhood, and there's no police there because the presumption of innocence versus an abundance of police present in urban environments based on a presumption of guilt. So what happens is that now you start to design data based off of that. Where do you put your police? Where do you put your energy? Where the data tells you to. But the data has been corrupted. And so now you can have somebody that's in a uniform that's not racist, that's behaving in a way that's racist, or a result that is racist because of the system that was in there. The cop from the 20s trained the one from the 30s. The one from the 30s trains the one from the 40s. One from the 40s trains the one from the 50s. Now,
so it's just right,
right, based on those thought processes. And the same thing with parents, same thing with everything. Now, when you add in things like redlining, where we're keeping people from home ownership, when we're talking about the GI Bill, where most people were able to ascend into the middle class, being denied to many people of color. My grandfather posthumously was part of a class action lawsuit because black men in World War II were paying the same rates of insurance for far less coverage. So things like that, where people were getting less quality. So those payouts on that money that allowed you to start that business or to go do that thing, unwind all of that. Not to mention the wealth of this country. How did this country go from being nothing to the preeminent, most dominant military and economy in the world in less than 200 years, when we're talking about other countries that are thousands of years old? Free labor. Right? What is the biggest expense for any business?
What?
Labor.
Labor. I was like, wait, what?
Labor. That's the biggest expense for any business. So if you take away the biggest expense from a business, if you go to any business and you say, I'm going to take away labor, don't even trip, I'm going to pay for that, that business is going to skyrocket.
Yeah.
Right? You could compete with Amazon. Overstock could compete with Amazon if you told Overstock you ain't got to pay for labor. They will put all their money in their advertising.
Yeah.
All their money into the whatever. All their money into procurement. Things that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And so when we think about those things, when we think about the seeds of it, right? We are in the crops of racism because they planted the seeds of racism. That would only make sense.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
Nobody would plant the seeds for corn and expect watermelons.
Exactly.
Right?
That's true.
Racist in, racist out.
Yeah.
Why would that be confusing for anybody? You know what I mean? And so what we have to get to is realizing that it's beyond blame, it's beyond you did this or you did that or whatever. It's the reality of it.
Yeah.
And it's the intended reality of it. It's doing what it's supposed to do. That's the problem. People think the conversation is there's something unintended or nefarious happening right now. No, that's not the problem. The problem is it is working exactly as it should. If a white person right now is not racist, it's on accident. You were meant to be racist. People were taught to be racist. Somebody had to stand up, display courage, and step away from that if you weren't racist. You had to have somebody that at one point in time put their life and their family's life, their business life in peril to not be racist. Keep in mind that for a long period of time, if you cared about a person of color, if you loved a person of color, if you were audacious enough to you felt what they felt. You were put in this pile with them. And so you were incentivized to be racist. Everybody right now should Google lynchings. Google lynchings and then hit images. When you hit images, you're going to see a couple things. You're going to see somebody hanging. You're going to see a rope. You're going to see a structure of some sort, probably a tree. But the other thing you're going to see in most of those pictures is a crowd. Always a crowd. And in that crowd, the whole town came out. There were children. There were parents. There were teachers. There were doctors. There were lawyers. The sheriff was there. The mayor was there. The barber was there. Everybody was there. And so if you chose not to be in that, you're talking about you against the whole town. You were incentivized to participate. You were incentivized to observe. And that's the thing. White people were taught to watch the suffering of black people. It was entertainment. And so we shouldn't be confused that so many white people are on the sidelines now. Right? That's part of the legacy. Again, it is working the way it was designed. And which is why we have to challenge the system and design something better.
I feel like Terry Crews, he made a good point. He said, defeating white supremacy without white people only creates black supremacy. We need to stand together. You know what I mean? Like we can't, it can't be some seesaw sort of thing. Like we have to stand together because one, we all need to be equal. That's what it's all about. And if we're just doing it ourselves as black people, that creates black supremacy. So, we need.
But this is why he got cooked. But this is why he got cooked online. Is because black supremacy as a concept is so foreign in a situation that where we cannot create equality by ourselves, right? So the point really, I think, to be made in that is that we cannot get to this point without white people.
Yeah.
The math don't add up. There's no version of that. There's just no version when you have 5 times more white people. This is bad math.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the idea that's where you got messed up. The idea of black supremacy only works once you get past equality.
Right.
We can't even get that without white people. So the big thing is to be able to say, we need white people to solve this problem. We need white people to get to equality. You see what I'm saying? Right now, black supremacy is not even in the realm of, you know, that's like being like, man, if Star Wars happened, like, yeah,
Star Wars.
It just can't. I mean,
you know what I'm saying?
Even in terms of like positions of power, like I understood. I'm glad you pointed it out that way because I feel like I understood his sentiment. But that's a good point. Like, you know, we don't even have many positions of power to make stuff happen like that. But yeah.
And he said it right now.
Yeah, right.
Nobody was trying to hear that right now.
Nobody's trying to hear that.
That's why they slap you. I sometimes with Terry, I'd be like, bro, your timing is just so awful. Like, bro, like why you lining yourself up for these joints? So, sometimes I just be like, yo, like especially for him, like there's so much stuff you could say that's not this. There's so much stuff you could say that's like, you know, they're gonna kill you. You already had like 3 of these, bro. I'd be like, bro, like somebody got to clear your tweets, bro. Like you be lining yourself up in the crosshairs every other week, man. I saw Terry Crews trending, and I was like,
"What did he say?
Come on, bro, come on." Because again, like you said, I know what he's saying.
Yeah,
right. Because but again, we're in a space where we have space to truly evaluate what he's saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we breathing. Like, if I was out on the street and somebody had just hit me in the head with a baton and I had just got maced in my face and I looked at my phone and saw Terry Crews talking about black bro, I'll light this whole world up. You know what I'm saying? I'll light this whole world
people up. Not trying to hear that.
Like right now I can sit here, I can chew on it, I can think about it, I'm cool. You know what I mean? I'm about to go get me a froyo or something like that or whatever. Like, I'm cool. But like if I was in the mix for real, like, I'm like, bro, please, to the left. I don't hear nothing. And Twitter with it on it, bro. Black Twitter is a monster, bro.
Yeah, Twitter is crazy.
Black Twitter in particular, bro. But that's another thing too, though, is that like that part is, that's a tricky thing in the black community, is that like we have been
we've been taught to go against each other.
Well, not only that, but just to over leverage or over index social currency. It's valuable, it's important, right? We can control a conversation, we can control what people wear, we can control what people do or whatever, we can control what people buy. We don't control the money, we don't control the manufacturing, we don't control the distribution, we don't control the whatever, and we have to, that can't be enough for us. It can't be enough for us to cancel somebody. Can we put somebody on? Right? I don't like canceling people is like whatever. I mean, like, I get that. Yeah. Like, can we elevate a person? Can we put a person in a position of power? Can we do these type of things? That's more what I'm concerned about. And so for black people, I want us to get beyond just our ability to affect culture and get to the point where we can encourage that culture to work on our behalf. I do think we're starting to see it. Yeah. Because what's happening right now is happening because of Black Twitter, because of these kids right now were raised in hip hop culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? This is madness to them. That's why when they saw what happened to George Floyd, people who went to school with kids of color and did different things or listen to hip hop or in sports or whatever, they was like, whoa.
Right.
Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Cats like me was like, what are you talking about? Like, that's regular. This is a Wednesday.
Yeah.
They was like, nah, this is unacceptable.
Yeah. For real. How you feel about Kanye putting the mega hat on to help get innocent people out of prison? How you feel about that?
Wait, what happened? I didn't even hear
He
about
put the
this.
mega hat on to get this conversation going to help get people out of prison.
Really?
Innocent people. That's why he did it. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I mean, like for you to trace that, for you to make that make sense. This is why artifacts are important. Because first, like post hat, the only way I can accept that as a logic is if I had some understanding of where your heart was at pre-hat. You don't have any artifacts. There are no artifacts saying that this was on your heart, that this was an initiative or whatever. There's no. It's not like you tried this or you tried that, you tried this or you tried that didn't work, and so you tried this and it did. You don't have that, which suggests to me like the first thing you did was tap dance to get in the house to get a convo with Massa. That's how it's going to be perceived. Now, in my space, I'm one of those people in the sense that, you know, I'm well liked in the community. I'm appreciated in the community, and so I'm able to get access to other people who can't get, and thus I use that access to be able to do those type of things. I ain't never have to put on like that. I ain't never have to wear. Like that'd be like for. And I'm not going to directly equate a MAGA hat to a hood, though I think people can easily make that connection, but I'm not in this particular case. But like that's like me being like, yo, I put on a hood to get in there to talk to him to do whatever. Like I get people having an issue with me. The other piece of it is, I do think he's a brilliant dude, no question about it. What I have a problem with is people who expect latitudes based off their brilliance. Intelligence comes with responsibility. That's why ignorance is bliss. If you don't know nothing, you ain't got to do nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But when you know better, you got to do better.
Yeah.
And so for me, you being brilliant means I expect more from you, not because it's fair or whatever, like because it is. My pressure to do whatever is because I communicate the way I communicate. It's because I'm equipped to do it. Not because I should be the one to do it. You should be the one to do it. You should be, we all, whoever. I'm equipped to do it. And so thus it becomes my responsibility to do it. And so, you know, so I don't buy that. And then my issue with Ye on that particular piece of it is his commentary afterwards. You know, slavery was a choice, da-da-da-da-da. It's shifting the onus of what happened to us onto somebody else. That's the problem. That's the thing that I can't abide. That's the thing I have no space for. With all that being said, shouts out for getting people out of jail. Out of prison.
Do you think he just did that though for the media, just to like?
Well, I feel like he knows.
People
I feel like he knows how to flip narratives.
He does. Yes. Yes.
But he was saying like, but still with intelligence, like he should do better.
No, that's a key point. You know, you know better.
I didn't look at it that way, but
you know better. You got to do better.
Because if you're smart enough to put all that together, you were smart enough to know how we was going to take it. You were smart enough to know how you was going to manage it, and you smart enough to do it a different way. I'm just sorry. Like I just
smart.
You know what I'm saying? Like if anything, like what Ye could have did with that energy could have went to making sure that dude didn't get elected. And you was working with somebody that would change reform anyway. Now the person that's home is home, and we happy that person's home. I could separate that thing. I could walk up to Ye right now, give him a high five for doing that, and smack the hat off his head in the next motion. But I wouldn't, you know, because at the end of the day, it's still his prerogative. I just don't have to feel it. It's his prerogative. If he actually was feeling Trump, he could do that. And we have to make space for people to do that, and that's an important point that we got to get, especially as people of color. Like for instance, there's some people for me where I'm never going to be legit. I'm never going to be about the cause because my wife is white. I'll never be about the cause. How can you do that? How can you da-da-da-da-da? How can you not be with this? How can you not be with that? It's nothing I'm interested in explaining. But what we got to understand is, for me, if I can't love who I want to love, whether it be because white people can't say I can't or because black people say I can't, I'm no less a slave. Don't nobody run me. No one. Black, white, cop, not president. Nobody run me. So I'm in this joint for love to enjoy my life or whatever. And so we gotta understand where if solidarity means lockstep, where there's no space for individual movement, we got to figure out a way to get together and have these meetings, because I wasn't invited to them where we decided what the rules were.
Yeah.
Somebody got to invite me to the meeting, because I need to vote on this.
Yeah.
No, that's
You know what I'm saying? You don't get to
Absolutely.
decide what this is and then tell me that I'm out of pocket, that I'm delinquent.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And so we got to change how we do that, and we got to be able to lobby to each other and say, listen, this is how you hurting us, this is how you affecting us, this is why I feel that way, and then we got to respect their right not to give a fuck.
Yeah, and we gotta keep this energy going too, and we gotta keep this up, because you know, with internet culture, things come and go. Like it's like 3 days,
and then it's
something might be going on, and then it's
Right.
gone the next. Like no, we gotta keep pushing, you know, for equality. You know. We have to. We can't just let it die after a week or two. Like everybody then forgot. No, like, you know, we can't let up. We got to keep this going, so we can make real changes.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's how I feel.
Exactly.
Yeah. Is it? Before we get off, is there anything of value, anything that you would leave the people with today?
It's your number one thing you can for value. For value.
The biggest thing I would just tell people is a better you is better for everybody, you know. And so in this world, there's things is always pulling you, but make sure, you know, you taking care of yourself and you love yourself. Make sure you're talking to yourself in a certain way. Make sure your inner dialogue is proper. Make sure you have that confidence. You know what I mean? Like, it's so funny, because even me with my swag, people be like, man, he full of himself. It's like, I'm supposed to be empty?
You
you know what I'm
supposed
saying?
to be
Like,
a mute, like nothing.
you know what I mean?
Like,
Like
Not how it goes.
how can I give to you if I'm lacking?
Right.
Exactly.
That don't make sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you know, people gotta, you know, get up straight. They gotta feel good about what they doing. And if nobody's doing anything because they don't think it'll work.
Absolutely.
Right? If you lose, it should be a surprise. You should be prepared, but it should be a surprise. We out here to win. Do your thing, have your energy right, treat people right, you're going to be Gucci.
Yes, exactly.
Just like that.
Just
Vaney
like
Hariri.
that.
Where can we find you online?
Yeah, so they can get us at letsthinkthree.com, or they can get us at Think3D on solutions on all of the socials and all of that.
Okay. Awesome. Everyone, this is Vaney Hariri on People Being People. Thanks so much for joining us today.
We really appreciate
I was excited
you.
about having this conversation, and I'm thankful that I got to sit back and, you know,
Kind
I
of
feel
just-
like just listen.
I
Like,
know, I was
feel like
learning.
I took so much
Usually
in.
it's not like that on
and
our podcast.
I
It's
think
like-
now that you've given us this conversation, now that we've been able to have this conversation with you, and we've had the privilege to learn, you know, from you, get your point of view, see your perspective, I feel like it is our obligation and our job now to give that back to someone else.
Yep.
And that's what this is all about.
Exactly.
You know, that's what I feel like that's what self-love is about. That's why we started People Being People, to have these, you know, open conversations so that you all that are listening can take this and spread it out into the world. That's what it's about.
Yes.
Let's love ourselves this week.
Happy Monday. Have a great day. Have a good week. We'll see you next week.
Have a great week, everyone. Peace.
Bye.
Self-love isn't an easy journey.
Especially when you came from a really broken place inside of you.
It's an everyday choice.